Hey, learn audio engineering. Today, we're going to talk about setting the recording levels into your DAW so that you get a quality recording that fully captures your voice or instrument every time. Now, this method will work for any DAW, whether you're using Pro Tools or Logic or Reaper. The first key point to take away from this video is the balance between gain and volume. And although these often get lumped together, they're very different things. Volume refers to the output level of a channel, how loud that instrument is coming out of your speakers. Whereas gain refers to the input of the amplifier that powers that channel, the preamplifier. This preamp controls the tone, loudness, character, and saturation of the signal. In the analog days, most gear told you what level to put into it to get the best result. Okay, so the manual says to set all channels to 0 dB VU, but I always like to drive this tape machine to +4. It gets all creamy and really glues the sound together. But whatever you do, don't record too low or else. So there was a not so clear noise floor that needed to be exceeded when recording, or else, well, what we get is not exactly a viable option. If you have noise on all 32 of your tracks because you recorded them too quiet, well, that's not good either. The basic rule of analog was record loud enough because it sounds fuzzy and noisy if you don't. In the book Mixing with Your Mind, Michael Stavro has a cool analogy using skyscrapers and focus. The analog skyscraper is fuzzy at the bottom as a result of the analog noise floor, and it's fuzzy at the top because of tape's saturation and compression effect that blurs the attack shape of transients. So the optimal analog recording level is somewhere in the middle, but also favoring that louder is likely better as it adds a desirable quality to many instruments. The digital skyscraper is much different. The bottom is blurry because I suppose there's still a noise floor. However, it's much lower these days. Your average interface shouldn't give you any problems here. The ideal recording level for digital doesn't really matter much until we get to the 0 dBFS ceiling. This is the top of the digital scale, and to your computer, nothing above here exists. It will get turned into a cutoff, rounded out square wave that just reeks of digital distortion. So the number one rule with digital, don't record too loud and never cross that 0 dBFS ceiling. The ideal digital recording level to use when setting a mic level is -18 dB. Aim for this and you'll give yourself lots of headroom and avoid any possibility of clipping. The truth is, as long as the audio you record is within that 0 dBFS limit, it's gonna sound great and react just fine when you go to process it. A recording with a bunch of squared off peaks is garbage unless that's the sort of effect you're going for. It's best to avoid this as it just sounds awful and it's not something that you're gonna wanna work with. If there's just a few peaks that have clipped, one tip would be to lower your preamp gain to around that -18 dB level, then record the passage again and comp out those peaks with the new unclipped audio. This -18 dB trick will work for any signal because the position you set on your interface's preamp gain is dependent on the source audio. And therefore it's going to give you the room it needs for any stray peaks or extra energy in the performances. You know how drummers like to play loud after sound check. But if this happens mid-session, you know what level to shoot for. Aim for -18 dB. Don't cross that 0 dBFS and your recordings will sound great. In the next video, we'll talk about the differences between recording with a condenser and dynamic microphone. Thanks for watching. Subscribe here for more content and I will see you guys in the next one. Peace.